Hello and welcome back to the Radio Gamescast. As always, I'm your host Ryan, and today I'm joined by my lovely cohort of co-hosts, Alex,
It might be me.
Wyatt,
Hello.
and Brett.
Hello.
See, everything's funky because Alex is traveling currently, so our cameras are all in different positions in Discord, and Discord does not always like that. Alright, well, we're talking about the Nintendo Direct. We had a whole Direct's worth of things to talk about, to go over, and then we're going to talk about Steam Next Fest and what we've been playing. There's lots to go over. I hope we're all excited, because we are missing the big game for this. To be fair,
We all love the big game.
The big game, sports, woo.
Mm-hmm.
Way
I
to
don't
go,
think
team.
any of us would
Sports
have
ball
watched
game.
it anyway. So,
No.
time to talk about video games instead of that, which I think is a much better use of our time. Alright. Well, I'll start us off with some of the big things from this Nintendo Direct. We had a few large, random announcements that nobody predicted, I think, going into this, that happened. One that was, I think we might as well just kick it off with one of the big ones, which was that Metroid Prime got a remaster and also shadow dropped itself into our
It is
hands
also
that day.
$40. And it's also
At $40 as well.
Later today.
Nintendo being
Oh.
generous, never would have thought.
Never ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a very interesting direct because I think Nintendo had some weird things in there, but largely hit it out of the park with what they did show. With the exception, I'll get to the exception later. Actually, we're not talking about Zelda yet. First, let's talk about Metroid Prime Remastered. Has anyone else given this a shot yet?
I played the first, the original Metroid Prime at a friend's house, and that was the only instance of me not playing an Xbox when I got violently sick playing a video game.
You know what? I can see that happening with how
Something was off with how the gun arm was held and the HUD all over the screen. It wonked my little child tummy out.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
That's very unfortunate.
I
wonder if this would be better.
I fully plan on playing it, but I want to wait for a physical copy that comes out later this month. But when the physical copies come out, I definitely do want to play it because Metroid Prime, I feel like I've never owned a console that had Metroid Prime on it. I always felt like it was a series that I would really, really get into. So I'm glad that I finally own a system that can play it. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Yeah, because you're going for that physical copy, right?
Yes.
It just feels better.
Well,
Yeah.
I think the way I want to do things is I want multiplayer games to be digital and then single player games to be physical. It just makes sense in my brain for some reason. So
I get that.
Yeah, that's definitely a fair point. So I did pick this up day and date. Metroid Prime 1 is one of the few games that I have like proper nostalgia for. Like full on nostalgia bait nostalgia. Along with Wind Waker, because the GameCube era of Nintendo games is what I grew up with largely. That's what I had, is like I had the GameCube, eventually a Wii, but I didn't play the Wii as much. GameCube was my thing. So I went from actually having played this relatively recently in GameCube form to going to playing this remaster within a couple of months. Man, it's a big difference.
Huh.
It is a very nice thing. Yeah, I think the remaster so far is very, very nice.
Hey, how does it handle on Switch controls compared to the others before? Is it better? Like, besides just graphics, are there notable improvements?
I would say, so I haven't played far enough in to know how different things past the first few hours play. I think there are some significant changes just based on the control scheme being different.
Mm-hmm.
It's, to me, I think they've done a good job of incorporating dual stick controls. And I think the thing for people that haven't played Metroid Prime, the thing that's weird about Metroid Prime compared to other shooters of the era is that Metroid Prime used Z targeting. Because they didn't, the GameCube had like the little C stick nubbin and not an actual second stick. So the shooters that existed at the point when that had come out largely didn't use the second stick as a like aiming stick. They used it for other things. I think, if I recall correctly, I used it for the morph ball. I could be very wrong about that,
Huh.
And I might be remembering like some emulated thing at some point, but yeah, I believe the biggest change is that dual stick control scheme, and doing dual stick in combination with the Z targeting works really, really well. Because targeting is very generous in Metroid Prime. It's not a game about fast reflexes for the most part. It's almost more of like a Metroidvania converted into 3D, which I think is why so many people are clamoring for 4. Because we don't have a lot of games like this aside from, I would say, like Dark Souls, which is a weird comparison
Oh.
for Metroid Prime, because the difficulty levels are wildly different. But I think the level design that is inherent in Metroid Prime is kind of seen later in things like Dark Souls and in some newer shooters, but not. It's not the average. AAA doesn't do it. It's sort of a thing that was unique to Metroid Prime at the time and hasn't really been followed up on. So it's very fun going back into it now because it hasn't aged at all. It still feels very new. The stuff like the effects when you hit something aren't as impressive. Like this, I think, is just running the old code underneath it all. So it's not like there are new crazy kill effects for the most part, or like things feel crazily impactful. It's the same gameplay, but because Metroid Prime was always ahead of its time, it's not particularly bad. Yeah, I've been having a great time with it. And notably, Z targeting makes it way more playable portably, because I haven't played it with an actual Pro controller yet. I've only played it in handheld, and it looks beautiful, and it runs at 60 frames, which is incredible. And the Z targeting makes up for the very short, like hard to control travel of the Joy-Cons.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so far, great port. I've only played up until like the first artifact that you have to collect of 12, so not super far. But
who developed the port? Was it in-house at Nintendo, or
it was in-house at Retro. This is a Retro developed port.
Oh, okay, wow.
Yep.
There's
all right.
There's some scattered, believe it or not, evidence that they may also have been sitting on this since like 2021. Also, in typical Nintendo fashion of getting a game ready like years before it's about to be out.
Yeah, whether or not that's true, we really don't know, or if this just started development around then, and that's why the rumors were circulating. But yeah, there's been rumors about this game for a long time. It has not been a recent thing at all. All right, so that's Metroid Prime thoughts. I really do hope they bring Metroid Prime 2 and give it this remaster treatment as well. I think 2 is almost as good as 1. 1, I think most people will say, is the peak of the franchise, but it's a peak of like 3 very similarly sized peaks. So it's not like the others are bad. It's just 1 was it's like 1 is revolutionary when it comes out. 2 is like the same thing as 1, which is still really fun, but you only are revolutionary once. Yeah. And 3, I think, would be... I've talked about this with a few other people. I think in this call as well, we've talked about how 3 was based on the Wii architecture and had Wii motion controls baked in. So porting that requires a little bit more effort than just slapping some new art on it, because it's designed for a Wiimote and not a typical control scheme. Supposedly, there is a control scheme that I haven't tried because I have been playing portable. There's a control scheme you can choose that emulates Metroid Prime 3's controls. In the options menu of the remaster, where it's like you can cursor point using the Joy-Con on the screen. I want to try that, because if it works well, I could actually see 3 getting remade.
Yeah, because if they'd done that, I imagine they could probably reverse engineer the opposite thing for 3 to work with.
But if you do, 3 would probably be one of those games that has to be played with gyro controls and not just aiming.
God
damn. There was
a curse, a scourge.
There was aiming with Skyward Sword, right?
Yeah, but I wonder if they're willing to give Metroid Prime 3 that treatment.
Yeah. I in my personal experience, the Wiimote-like controls on the Joy-Cons just did not translate very well.
Yeah, for me, they worked in the small handful of games that I've tried, but I would usually never choose them over the default.
I do wonder
they
if
don't feel as tight as the Wii, which is probably because it doesn't have like an IR beam; it's all gyroscope. So
well, it makes me. And obviously, I don't know how Metroid Prime 3 plays, but I almost wonder if, like, I'm assuming you use one of the Wiimotes in the third one to like point, right? I feel like that would work so much better than trying to emulate slashing a sword, because I feel like that's a much harder motion for the Switch to pick up than just pointing, your Joy-Con.
Well, bizarrely, that worked really well in Okami for me, and no other games. So I could see them making it possible.
I just realized the last game I played on my Wii was Sonic Unleashed.
What a painful realization.
I don't feel comfortable with that.
But yeah, I would love to see 3 remade. I think that is a much harder sell. And I also think these are Metroid games. They're not the most followable, continual story. They tend to kind of drop you off with an assumption of no knowledge. And they're generally designed in a way that you don't need to have played the others before you play the next one. It does help if you want to follow the greater story, but generally they'll fill you in on what you've missed. And it's not a super narrative heavy game, so you're not missing out on, like, this wouldn't be the equivalent of playing like God of War Ragnarok before playing the God of War 2018.
It's the same as person.
I put it more on the same of like playing God of War 2018 without playing the prior trilogy, where yeah, it might be a little awkward, but you're gonna be fine. So yeah, I that's how I'd put Prime. All right, moving on from Metroid Prime, we have a series of smaller things that got announced. The one that I want to kind of beat on with a stick for a minute is Samba de Amigo Party Central.
Beat on with a maraca, maybe, instead of a stick?
Maraca.
I don't...
Cha-cha-cha.
I wanted to forget about this one. These faces, I'm pretty sure, gave me nightmares the night after.
Do you not like the TV head monkey, Wyatt?
I can't say that I do.
That you love the TV head monkey.
No. I don't like the smile. It freaks me out, and I feel like they're just watching me creepily every time I make eye contact.
They are, yeah.
We don't have eyelids.
I'll have you know, Samba de Amigo was originally produced by Yuji Naka, our famed insider trading Sega man. Also known for Balan Wonderworld.
Yep.
You know what? It's all the pieces are starting to come together here.
Yeah.
All starting to make sense.
I heard that as all the pieces are sharding here, and yeah, it
technically
like
a storied franchise. It has had Dreamcast and Wii entries and was relatively well received, to my knowledge, on both of them.
I'm so happy for it.
Oh my god.
I'm so happy for it.
The only place I know this from is that either there was a car or you could race as one of the monkeys in the Sonic All-Stars racing transformed game.
Incredible.
And I saw it and I was like, okay. Weird. Because it's just like an add-on Sega character.
Yep.
I don't even know what kind of game these are.
This was originally an arcade game in 2000 that was very well received and actually one of the highest grossing arcade games of 2000 in Japan. So it was very well received, and then it immediately launched onto Dreamcast and was fine. And then the Wii version launched and was received as just okay. And now, over 10 years later,
we have the Switch version. How will it be received?
A very storied franchise, clearly.
And this is bizarre to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Okay, maybe Samba de Amigo will be a GOTY contender, and I'm just completely wrong.
I'm sorry,
possible.
Are you suggesting that Samba de Amigo can beat out Hi-Fi Rush?
Hey, I'm never one to, I don't know, shoot the horse in the legs before the race starts.
Shoot the monkey in the legs before the race starts, you mean?
Yeah, shoot the monkey's ball before the Super Monkey Ball level begins.
The monkey's ball.
This is where we get unhinged on the Nintendo Direct episodes.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
We're only 20 minutes in.
Why start
absolutely bonkers for me. This is one of those things that was just insane. I wasn't prepared for this. I love that they announced it so far out and that it's coming in June 30th compared to if you show me a game like this, it has to be releasing next month for me to have any interest, right? It's got to be 2 months maximum. Instead, June 30th. Instantly, I'm gonna forget about this. And maybe it'll be a dark horse.
Case in point, I forgot this was announced until you brought it up just now, Ryan.
I know.
The Direct was like a couple days ago.
And it's like a double whammy because not only am I going to forget about this before it comes out in June, I also don't want to see an ad for it again. If they have another Direct in between now and June, another ad for Samba de Amigo is going to be taking up
unless those monkeys are in balls. I don't want to see it.
Monkey Ball, completely different story. Give me as many Monkey Ball games as you can physically pump out for me to play. This is not Monkey Ball.
Hey, this was a good direct for ball games, though. We have a couple other games that fit the ball games moniker.
What a great compliment.
What a great compliment for the direct.
Great for ball games.
This is the ball game direct, okay? This is the ball game Nintendo Direct, and I want everyone to know that this Nintendo Direct had balls. All right, we love Katamari Reroll plus Royal Reverie. This is a remake, remaster of the second Katamari game, often referred to as the best one. It's a very, very good game if people haven't played it before. The first Reroll remaster for Switch was great. I think this is also going to be great. It launches pretty far out. This was not, I believe this is in June, but I could also have that date mixed up with...
I'm curious as to what you think the other ball games are, because so far those are the only ones that I remember.
Yeah, June 2nd for Katamari. Look, Zelda has balls. Splatoon, you shoot balls of ink. Okay.
I thought you were going to go for... I thought
Ryan.
That's a bit of a stretch. I would, instead of Splatoon, I would go for Kirby as a ball.
Yeah, Kirby's a ball, but that's low-hanging fruit, right? We had a lot of ball games here that we don't need Kirby to be additionally a ball game on the pile.
This was great for ball games because it's busting my balls how much...
Metroid Prime, you turn into the morph ball. That's the key mechanic of the game. You turn into the morph ball.
It's this direct. No, Ryan is right because this direct busted my balls with how much longer I have to wait for Advance Wars 1+2. Oh my god!
You interrupted him, Ryan, so you had to say it twice.
Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp showed up. Unlike how everyone predicted this was probably going to get dropped sometime in the next week. Nope, it's in April.
Very weird. Very strange to not just drop it now.
So
are there like entirely new characters, or was that a different Advance Wars?
Well, this is a combo of 1 and 2, so there's characters from both in this. So
okay.
If you're not familiar with characters, they're probably from the other game.
I tried looking this up and I couldn't find any information on this, so I want to pose a question to all of you. Do you think that they've been, because this was supposed to be released last year, right? And for obvious reasons it was held back. Do you think they've been working on it at all since then, or have they just been sitting on it, gathering cobwebs?
Imagine more than like 5 people are still working on this.
Well posed question.
I wonder what you've had to do on it. Like if the game was done, unless you're like
unless they were legitimately had to delay for a year and the timing was just insane.
I was gonna maybe clip out and replace some of the dialogue if they're releasing it now.
Yeah, I could see them changing up some context in the story. But
Even though
it's odd that they didn't mention that. And I'll note why there's some weird things with this trailer that I want to go over real quick because I think
there was no
particularly
gameplay. No gameplay.
Yeah.
And the entire trailer, they refer not to war or anything aside from the only mention of war in this is Advance Wars in the title. The rest is like build maps with your friends, play your friends' maps. You can have fun tactical gameplay. This is the weirdest Advance Wars trailers that I have ever seen. And it's all animated. There's no gameplay at all. It talks a lot about multiplayer. It doesn't mention the stories of either game.
Yeah.
Travel across the world doing things and making friends.
Maybe that's fine. I don't think that's a reason to be concerned about the game, but it is just like, I don't know that this trailer would have sold any copies. I don't think this is advertising what people play Advance Wars for, which is the strategy game, tactical battles part, and not the build maps with your friends part. That's a bonus. I'm happy it's there, but it's not going to sell me a copy of the game, right?
Yeah. But I mean, for anyone who plays Advance Wars, we all know that there was like a map editor, and I guess at least for me, I expected it to be there. But I just hope, like you said, I just hope that it was delayed for real world reasons and not, oh crap, this is going horribly. We need more time.
Yeah.
Look at that timing. I hope that's not what's going on.
Maybe the art style has changed or something because there was all that backlash against it. I still think it looked largely fine. I don't know.
What was the backlash against the art style?
A lot of people just don't like the art style, which is fine. Like I'm not.
Honestly, I really liked
subjective.
it. I think The only thing that I wasn't the biggest fan of was maybe like the 3D character models, like not like of the commanders, but of like the soldiers themselves looked a little strange. But I mean, I thought everything else looked great.
Yeah, the animations were good, so people are hard to please. All right. Any other thoughts on
Yeah.
Advance Wars before we move on?
I want it. I want it. I'm pretty sure
Speaking
in the
of
notes.
wanting it, Dead Cells Return to Castlevania has been given a date. We saw some gameplay. It's basically just a Castlevania level of Dead Cells, which I'm totally down for.
I love new levels of Dead Cells. I just recently did my yearly getting back into that game.
Oh, you're gonna have to do it again because Return to Castlevania is coming next month, I believe.
I am absolutely. My stints usually last like 2 to 3 months on that game. It's good. It has content. I have yet to get to Boss Cell 3 difficulty.
Yeah.
My God.
I mean, I'm excited for this. I was very surprised that they're actually incorporating characters from Castlevania into the game properly. Like Alucard and Richter are in the game legitimately and not just like in the trailer, which is great.
I'm very excited to use the whip and flail. That's going to be fun.
I want to play
because you got to
Death
see a little
fight.
bit of their weapon use. Oh yeah.
What we heard of the redone tracks from Symphony of the Night,
yes,
fantastic
and
as well.
More than 50 tracks. They had a hefty
lot
amount
of music.
Which is for. Is this just going to be one area of the game? Is this going to be multiple areas?
I don't think we know for sure if this is like a separate mode or just a level within the game. I think we'll get that info when it's closer to release. But I could totally see this being like a side mode and not just incorporated in the main game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would probably fit pretty well with the Castlevania theming. All right.
They also did a great job of incorporating Castlevania's aesthetic into Dead Cells visuals. I think that was like a really good transition.
I'm glad I have the wall chicken food option on already.
Oh, the good old wall chicken option. Well, speaking of dying in a roguelike and going back to the start, we're going to talk about Pikmin 4. Because it was the start of the show.
Pikmin 4 is a roguelite?
No. I wish it was a roguelike, Alex. I would love a Pikmin roguelike. That would be something special. No, but Pikmin was the start of the show. They opened on Pikmin 4, showed actual gameplay. You have a dog.
Yeah, he is so cute. Oh my god.
That was.
I also love the juxtaposition of the style between those pretty nice, if not slightly stylized, realistic backgrounds, and then the cartoony aspects of the characters.
Yeah, it did look good. The low-down camera, I think, looks really good for what they were going for. It's a Pikmin game. I think people that like Pikmin games are going to be very happy with this. I didn't see anything that would necessarily sell this to me as someone who doesn't love Pikmin games. Not saying that I personally don't love them, but I'm thinking of someone who hasn't played one before. I don't think there was a lot of sales here in terms of like this showing me anything that was particularly different from Pikmin 3.
I mean, I'm so unfamiliar with Pikmin that I don't really know what kind of game it is, to be honest with you. Like, I am so unfamiliar with this franchise that I looked at this and I was like, what's happening?
All I know is that you don't play as Omar, which, to my knowledge, not having played any Pikmin games as well, is the character for the other games?
Well, you maybe have just one of there's them? More than one captain in some of them, so you can end up playing as more than one character at different parts of the story, which is just a part of it. I don't think there's any huge surprises here, unless people count the dog as a huge surprise. But I really don't think that's that
what
groundbreaking
little
of a change.
It's
wonderful. Very cute, and they're getting cuteness points.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think Pikmin 4 did have the problem of highlighting the Switch's underpoweredness. I don't know about you all, this game did not look great to me.
No, yeah.
I think it's just because it's going for like a semi-realistic art style for everything on the ground. So everything aside from the Pikmin to me just looked a little fuzzy, and I wasn't super pleased with it. But
yeah, and I wonder if it could be like a combination of that and just how many little guys are there at once, and just both those things at the same time are just not working. Because I think like just in general, the Switch just looks way better when you have it is just the Switch art style, which is just like almost like chiseled cartoony clay. And just trying to go for realism on the Switch is a really bad idea if you want your game to look good. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the thing that stood
Look
out to
good
me is
and
I thought
run
it looked
well.
really bad when they did the ice Pikmin on the lake and the lake frosted over. I just thought that did not look particularly good. That might just be a me thing, and it may have also just been the trailer's bitrate because we were watching it through Discord being streamed by someone else to get the recording done. So it is possible that Discord just murdered the bitrate to make it look worse. But yeah, I wasn't incredibly happy with it, but at the same time, the Pikmin games I don't think need to be high art in terms of how they look. All right, let's move on and talk about our next game. So we got a bunch of DLC announcements that I'll just run through real quick. We saw a new track from Mario Kart Deluxe 8 Booster Course Pass. That's a mouthful. We saw the Fire Emblem Engage expansion pass. We saw Xenoblade Chronicles 3 expansion pass. Bunch of stuff for all of them. Oh boy, what they showed for not the next Xenoblade 3 expansion pass, because the way they do these is that the first 3 don't matter, and the third one is the one that has the new story. The third one looked real spicy.
I will say, for the Fire Emblem stuff, I have played the first of the mainline games, and then I have played the mobile game so far. So I was like, pleasantly surprised to see one of the mobile game characters making it into the main line stuff. I was like, that's neat.
That's the weird thing with Fire Emblem is that they have so much nostalgia bait that I imagine works really well in Japan, but in America we have never gotten like half of these games. Specifically the ones for the characters that they keep slamming down our throats of like Marth and Ike and everything. Those are characters that we didn't get in America until very late.
Have you ever heard the title Tharsia 377?
That I know that one is apparently good, but that's only because I've read Fire Emblem posts about which ones you should play. So it's really a crapshoot in terms of what character comes from what. I think it's weird because I feel like they're in a good spot where they have nostalgia bait gameplay, but most people don't play them for the nostalgia bait because they haven't played the thing that nostalgia is from. So they're just games now, and they just have Marth reoccurring repeatedly.
Every character with blue hair in the games, by the way, their name is Marth. Just a little tip for those of you getting into the series.
Just a different Marth. And if they have a different color hair, it's just like green Marth, red Marth. You know, you can call them other names.
There's one person who is actually mistaken for Marth, the actual Marth, who they then say her name is Lucina. Don't be fooled, her name is also Marth.
Yeah, yes. Definitely. All right, well, speaking of Marth...
Marth madness.
Look, there's no other Marth in here. There's nothing I can connect Marth to in this.
Speaking of
boys with swords, let's go to Tales of Symphonia Remastered coming out soon.
Ryan, you missed such a good transition into Fashion Dreamer. I can't believe that you just don't want to talk about Fashion Dreamer.
Look, we will talk about Fashion Dreamer. I'm going to make us talk about Fashion Dreamer, but not yet, because we're going to talk about Tales of Symphonia Remastered, because I'm upset, okay, Wyatt? I'm upset about Tales of Symphonia Remastered, because it's not remastered basically at all.
Yeah, it doesn't look remastered at all.
Doesn't look remastered at all. It's based off of the PS2 port, which to my knowledge is inferior to every other port of the game. Yeah. It runs worse.
Except for the PC port.
I don't know. I'm kind of questionable on the remaster. Maybe it'll have some neat stuff, but being in 30 FPS and 2023 on a console that is definitely capable of it, a little weird. It's a great game. Tales of Symphonia holds up very well, but I don't see why I would buy this over just playing it on my GameCube. Which, you know, when your remaster doesn't justify its existence, you got to contend with that fact.
Well, there's also, I always bring this up, there's always that sect of people for these re-releases and remakes and stuff, that sector of people that haven't played it before, and they don't have any of the hardware that it's on. So it's there for people who don't have a GameCube or whatever platform you play it on. So that's good. But
yeah, but Tales of Symphonia is on everything else at this point. You can play it most other places.
It's on Steam.
It's on Steam, is a port. It runs fine. I played through it the first time on the Steam port and had no issues. Though I've heard there were issues at one point.
Yeah, when it came out, I know people were really upset. I think that it still has like a mixed rating on Steam because just how many people were mad, because a lot of people really like this game. So it's just weird because you could probably like even if just the purchasable version on Steam isn't good enough now, you could probably mod that to be like borderline like equivalent or better to emulating the GameCube version, while still buying it officially on like a real store. So I don't really know what the point. If your remaster isn't going to be so pretty that it's making the Switch run it at 30 FPS, why is it running at 30 FPS?
Yeah, and I always feel like this would have been better received if they just dropped the remaster title and just released it as Tales of Symphonia.
As a port, yeah.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. But that's not what they did. All right, time to speak of more JRPGs, because we got a handful of them coming through this time. We're going to take a hard turn from the bad remaster to the good remaster, which is Baten Kaitos 1 and 2. Oh boy. Brett, I know you're excited for these games.
I have a strange relationship with the team at Monolith that made Baten Kaitos. You could pronounce it however you want, because I don't think anybody really knows, because nobody
I will
played
use
them.
both interchangeably.
Yeah, same.
Switch Kaidos.
Because from them, I've only played Xenogears and Xenosaga, and Xenogears is great, and Xenosaga sucks. But I like Xenogears so much that all their other games that they've made, they've been on my list.
But they also made the Xenoblade Chronicles series, which are all very good, as well as assisting with the world design of Breath of the Wild, which I think is the one thing that everyone agrees was perfect. You don't need any changes to that world design. Even if you didn't like the game, I think that's the thing that translated well.
Yeah, for sure.
Good history.
But yeah, you got both 1 and 2 in the same package. I don't think we know how much the bundle is. Because
I would probably guess this is going to be a full price release at $60.
It's two games. It makes sense, and they're JRPGs, so they're not.
They're also notably these are expensive games to acquire.
Yeah,
I know, because I have both of them.
Oh,
so, you lucky bastard, you!
I got lucky not paying high prices for them, because I found them at like a local games resale shop that did not know they were crazy valuable.
Look for them.
But yeah, I think particularly the second one has inflated in price ridiculously recently. They're very good games. They hold up very well. I went through Baten Kaitos 1 not too long ago, and yeah, they're very good. The central shtick here is they are deck builders. The way you gain abilities is by adding cards to your deck, and party members have different cards and whatnot. You get really cool animations for all the cards. They redid the UI for these remasters, which looks very good. So I'm very excited to play these. I think this is going to be a great capitalization on the deck building trend, as Wyatt said when we watched this live.
I think also, because I can't remember 100%, but I remember when they were going through the in-game scenes, finally a game has the pre-rendered backgrounds, and they just look really good.
They up-res
the remaster. They up-res them, and from the little snippets they showed, it looks like they did it correctly. They didn't shove them through 9 different terrible-looking
terrible
AI
rescalers.
Programs. Yeah,
email
they
it
look like blurry messes.
Who will put it in the server at the worst quality.
They didn't upload it through Discord. They had to shrink the file for it to fit without Nitro. But yeah, so many games. It's fine if you just put it in with the same resolution that it released with on the PS1 or whatever, like Final Fantasy games do. That's fine. It's the pixels are crisp, but that's okay. But when you Persona 3 it looks terrible. More games need to do it, like the Baten Kaitos that appears to be doing so.
All right. Now, I want to talk about another game that we maybe did a little dirty at the time. I think Wyatt and I both reacted to this in a very negative way. And now that I know who's making it, I'm a lot more intrigued about what we're looking at.
What game is this?
This is Tron. Let me make sure I get the name right.
Oh,
Tron
Identity. The puzzle game.
Yep.
The start of one of many this episode.
I'm a lot more positive on this.
I mentioned this when we live streamed it.
But what did he mention? Go for it.
That it's made by Mike Bithell and his team, which is, I mean, listen, looking at it's probably not going to be my thing, but that means it's in very, very good hands.
Yeah, they've worked on some very good stuff. Subsurface Circular, very interesting narrative game. Thomas Was Alone is a classic at this point, so I would give them the benefit of the doubt in this being an interesting game.
Well, and this isn't the first time that they've taken like a popular IP and put it in a genre that no one was expecting. They did a John Wick game that was like a puzzle game almost. If I'm remembering correctly, I think this is the same.
I think
team.
I think there it was a Montreal studio that did like the John Wick and the Lara Croft and the Hitman Go type stuff.
No.
I believe John Wick was done by Bithell. Or Bithell.
Oh, am I completely pulling this out of my butt right now? Am I thinking of something else?
Of what?
Well, regardless, I think it's in very good hands, no matter what form this ends up taking.
Yeah. All of the games that Biffle Games has done have been received very well, so I would be surprised if this is not also received very well. Yeah, I'm intrigued. Now, another thing to color me intrigued about is Harmony: The Fall of Reverie. This is Dontnod's next game. We saw an animated trailer for this. It had a narrative flowchart, and I'm a big fan of narrative flowcharts in particular.
It looks really cool. Oh.
Yeah, this is Dontnod's next attempt at a storytelling game. It's beautifully animated, like gorgeous looking. And yeah, I think this is intriguing because I'd never heard of it before now. I think it had been announced beforehand, but we just hadn't really seen a lot of it.
I cannot wait to play it because I am going to.
I think the character design was super standout. All the like demigod looking characters had crazy designs that were very fun. So
it has like I don't know if you feel the same way. It has like a more subdued what's the like Killer in Paradise City?
Oh, right? Paradise Killer. I think you're thinking
Paradise Killer. Yeah. It has a very like subdued Paradise Killer vibe to it.
For sure. I think that's definitely a good sign. I'm the only thing I'd be concerned about with this is the pitch they had for this being like a cyberpunk city that is reflected into like a demigod world could get crazy really fast. Hopefully Dontnod can handle it getting crazy and not make it too crazy too fast. And keep
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the theme of like one world of like two worlds on top of each other.
Yeah, great theme. If they do it right, I think it'll be great. But Dontnod has missed before, so hopefully this is not a miss. All right, moving on. You know what? This seems as good a place as any to get style savvy and talk about fashion dreamers.
I mean, I said that as a joke. I have nothing to say.
I know. I wanted to stay silent for a minute to see if anyone had anything to say about this game. Look, we're not the target audience.
I was gonna say, I don't think any of us could react in any other way.
It's like pitching us a racing game.
You can, when we streamed this, you can watch us just completely detach from what was going on.
Look, I'm a big fan of transmog in games, and I would play a game where the goal is to make a cool transmog. In fact, that is largely what I do in Warframe and Destiny. At the same time, Fashion Dreamer didn't tell us what the game is.
No,
I think the game is walking up to people and liking their outfit.
Is that it?
And then making your own.
I also
walking out waiting for someone to like it.
More.
Am I the only one that's a little bit freaked out by the character models? There's just something off about them, and they make me feel a little.
They remind me of like Asian pop characters and pop culture.
It feels a little.
Well, you know what I was going to say?
Porcelain doll.
That's what I was going to say. Porcelain dolls. It's little unsettling for me. But that's about all I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that sets this apart for me, I'm sure you all are very familiar with the famous Style Savvy franchise.
It's a franchise?
Very popular. This is not part of it. This is a different game. Style Savvy was a franchise on the DS for a long time that was, marketed towards young girls and very well received. It was like you had the same gameplay you imagine here. You're going around collecting outlets, but the central hook of Style Savvy is you were competing in a contest, right? And you had to work on a shop by selling items and building your brand, doing the influencer thing. But there was a goal. So I wonder if there's going to be a goal here or not, if there's an actual story.
I don't know what you're talking about, Ryan. I love the engaging gameplay of going, hey, nice plaid skirt to someone.
And look, I do love the passive aggressive that you can suggest to other people what their outfit should be.
Oh my god, what?
Carries the implication of their current outfit is bad.
Wow.
I do love the passive aggressiveness of that. All right, moving on from fashion dreamers. Let's talk about Omega Strikers, because I'm curious if any of you have played Omega Strikers before.
I have not, but it looks very interesting. I am a
It was
fan
the
of
top-down
hockey.
air hockey game that they showed.
Interesting character designs too, for in-game or in the gameplay part of the game, being able to see very little of them.
Yep. So notably,
think
this has been
besides
out for a
general-
while on other
Oh.
platforms,
Nice.
and I believe it's actually been. You know what? Maybe it isn't out. Maybe it had a beta test, and that's what I'm thinking of, because it doesn't have any. Nope, it
Wait
does
a
have
second.
reviews on
This
Steam. There's not
this
listed.
wasn't
Yeah, it
made
was
by
a
the
beta
same
test.
people who made Hades, right?
No, absolutely
No.
not.
So I remember
You're thinking of
not
Pyre.
made
You're thinking of Pyre.
Yeah.
Pyre, because they did make like some kind of semi-sports game.
This is
Pyre.
a new developer, to what I know. This has had a number of pre-release tests going on, and every single thing that I've heard about it has been incredibly positive. I haven't tried it myself, but a lot of people were telling me, like, don't judge this at first appearance for like the air hockey look. This is actually like a really, really fun team game. So hey, I'm curious in trying this. I want to say it was going to be free to play, but that might have just been the pre-release beta.
It is free to
and
play.
Not...
Mm.
Yeah,
Oh.
okay. Well, full launch is
Neat.
not there yet. This is actually for the full launch. So yeah, I'm very curious about this. If what I've heard about it holds up, could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into the rapid fire things that they showed in the middle to kind of wind you up a little bit. We saw Blanc, which is the cute deer and other creature. Dog-like creature. The white and black creatures that do little explory things. I think this game looks very cute, and I'm very interested in seeing what it actually plays like. Yeah, everything they've shown for Blanc has looked good, so I just want to know what it is. We saw Disney Dreamlight Valley in that little montage. We saw Minecraft Legends again. We saw the Mega Man Battle Network collection, which I am personally very hyped for, that Mega Man collection, because those Battle Network games play a lot like One Step from Eden, from what I've heard.
Yeah, just slower, pretty much.
Which is a big sell for me. I haven't played them before, but One Step from Eden is one of my favorite roguelikes. So
Isn't One Step from Eden also being ported to the Switch?
One Step from Eden's on Switch.
Wasn't that in the... Oh.
It's already on Switch. That's how I played it the first time. We played One Step from Eden for Game Pass Games Club at one point.
Yeah.
So we've all played a little bit of it. And we saw Have a Nice Death again. That still looked very good. So I'm curious to see more from all those games that we got a little rapid fire section of. We also saw Power Pro's WBSC basketball, or baseball, not basketball, which was a little baseball game. Wyatt, I love the expression on your face about this little baseball game.
Was that the one that looked exactly like Wii Baseball?
Yeah, 100% looks like Wii Baseball.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's also out now. This is already out. All right, let's jump on the other list of things. We saw Sea of Stars.
Yeah,
baby.
This is by the Messenger devs, which is a big sell for me. That Messenger is a great game. The fun little platformer where you're playing a ninja that goes from 8-bit to 16-bit, and you get some Metroidvania elements in the later half.
Very cool.
I'm curious what this is going to be, because this is a like Chrono Trigger style JRPG.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks gorgeous. All this art they've shown of it, I've loved. So I'm curious to see how this releases. Notably, this was originally going to release last year and got delayed.
Yeah.
So hopefully
that might explain why. I felt like I heard about this before.
Yeah, we've seen this before.
It's on your fantasy games list.
Oh yeah, that's why.
From me, because I was about to do it next, and then you did it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a demo out now. I think the demo's only on Switch, but it will come to at least also Steam. Because I know I have it wishlisted on there. But hopefully the demo's good. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about it other than that it's pretty, and you don't need to play it.
I've heard a few good things about it, but I haven't had the chance to play it yet. So I am excited to get my hands on that when it actually releases. Our last, I want to say this was our last proper JRPG to round out the list of JRPGs, which was Etrian Odyssey.
Yes.
Origins Collection.
That's another one I was really interested in looking.
Very excited for this. This is Etrian Odyssey, for those who have not played it, because it was a 3DS exclusive franchise and DS exclusive. is a series of games where the central conceit is you have to like map dungeons as you explore them
That
and
looked
build
so cool.
your JRPG party. Don't expect these to be lookers. They're not great looking games. They have really good 2D art if you like the 2D art, but the actual environments and whatnot, these are ports of DS games. So,
yes, and they're also notoriously ball-bustingly difficult to get.
You
back on
can
the
turn the
ball
difficulty
trend.
down. You can
And then
make
you
it
get a
baby
little baby
mode.
pacifier in your mouth if you want to MGS5 it.
But if you
I
want to
do
baby
love
mode these games, they may not be for you because there's not a lot there.
I do love the
aside
idea
from the
of
gameplay.
physically filling out the map
Yeah.
as you go through it yourself. But I also like the accessibility option of it auto mapping for you.
I hope the
I still
mapping
like-
ports well to this because
Yeah.
a key thing about Etrian
Oh
Odyssey
yeah, without a
is
stylus, that'd be kind of weird.
I've played games that have done maps like this fine that way, so I think it'll be okay, but it's definitely going to be clunkier than doing it on the DS because the DS you would just swap to the bottom screen and use the stylus. It's very
Yeah.
easy. With this, you'll have to do something different. You'll either have to open a menu or you'll have a little side panel with it. So, yeah,
Fingers
I
crossed
suspect that'll
it's
be
just
more
on a bumper
involved.
button.
Yeah, that'll be more involved. Taking that out of Etrian Odyssey, and I think you're left with a very fine dungeon crawler because the mapping is a core identity of Etrian Odyssey. And I think a lot of people are very averse to the idea of it at the start. It is way more fun than it lets on at the start. I've played a lot of these games on the DS, and they are very, very entertaining. The weird thing is that this collection is not a collection of the better 3DS, better in question marks, because there's a bunch of debate about whether or not they're actually better or just side grades of the DS versions. This is a port of the DS versions of these games and not the 3DS remakes that exist. The reasoning for that isn't fully known, but it's weird.
Atlas.
It's a strange Atlas decision and a series of strange Atlas decisions. Also, this collection is $80. So this is not a $60 release. And if you want to get the games individually, they're $40 each. So full DS price.
So
A
that's
little
not
wacky.
There's literally no benefit to the collection.
No, the
then.
collection you get one of
That's-
the games for free, essentially, because they're $40 each. So if
But you said $80.
if the collection,
There's
that's-
three of
that's
them.
There are
40
three
games
first
too. There's
three.
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 3 games. Yeah, I it's a weird decision by Atlas. I don't really have a horse in this race because I've never played the DS version. I've only played the 3DS versions. And to my understanding, the main difference in the 3DS version is they added a longer story, which the writing in Etrian Odyssey is not what you play those games for. So I wouldn't necessarily say that's better. Yeah, weird decision. Also throw in a thing that was exclusive to the Japanese Direct here that fits our JRPG category,
Very
which is the
important.
Atelier Marie remake. Looks cool.
Huh.
We don't know if it's going to be localized yet.
It is.
I would-
It is.
It is. We know that for sure.
Yeah, the what's Koei Tecmo's doing it, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, their USA Twitter account was tweeting about it.
Okay,
also
great.
saying that it was coming this summer. So I don't think you really need more than that. It's probably a scenario like I know they did. I think last year they had a direct where they showed Fatal Frame only in the Japanese
Yeah.
direct, and everyone was like, "We care about that too. Why didn't we get that? And then I
Why
think
was
the
this not
next
in the
direct
other
after
one?
we got it. Yeah, it was weird.
Maybe
but
the
probably
trailer
another
just
case of
isn't
that.
done in English yet.
Yeah, no. We'll probably get it at the next like smaller direct that they do because the same thing happened with the Fatal Frame game.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Yeah,
Fatal Frame, wasn't there? What was? I just say this because vaguely horror themed. Just that wasn't there also like something? God, what was it? The old.
What was it, Alex?
Yeah, we don't know what you're talking about.
I'm so confused because they also announced like a port or a remaster of like Edge of Abyss or something like God. What was it?
Edge of Abyss? What is
No. It's God, I feel like I'm having a stroke here. The only reason why
I
I
am too.
recognize this game title is because it was recently in a actually game featured in like the where they
We have
I'm
strayed
so
so
curious as to
far
what
from what
game
was
you
in
are
this direct.
I have
I
to
know
find it.
where his train of thought goes.
You know what?
That's all
Report
I'm
back
here
to
for
us
right
at the
now.
shoutouts portion of the show, and we'll
Yeah.
figure out what
Oh my
this is.
god.
Continue your search, Alex, because now I am also curious. But yeah, Atelier Marie, I think, is a very cool grab for a remake because it's one of those games that is pretty well liked by people that played it, but very few people have played it. So
Yeah, never
I'm
came out in the
curious to
West
try
yet.
it.
So
And I played a lot of the newer Atelier games. They are all generally of a pretty good quality. Not great, but they're all they never sink below good. So consistency is key. All right. Let's talk about some of the weirder stuff. Cereza, Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon. This is the weird Bayonetta spinoff that we've been shown. I am so curious about this game because I think the first time we were shown this, it looked like a lower budget side project. This is a full price Bayonetta game coming out, which has me very curious for if this is actually going to be like the size of a full game. And I want to give it the benefit of the doubt because there's been a few surprises recently. We got Hi-Fi Rush where we were also like, maybe this is just going to be like a weird little side thing. And no, it's one of the best games I've played in a while. So
Yeah.
I'm open to what this is. I just want to know. I want more details. It looks funky. You are controlling presumably both Cheshire the cat and Cereza as you are exploring a little forest and going about your business of some type, because I don't know. I think you're rescuing your mother. I feel like that was what they said in the story.
I think so. That sounds right.
It looks cute. I like the art style. Hopefully it's good, because Bayonetta 3 still left a sour taste in my mouth. All right. Talking about leaving sour tastes in our mouth, let's talk about Octopath Traveler 2.
Oh.
And no judgment
We
on 2.
have
I don't
to?
think any of us have played the 2 demo yet.
Nope. Didn't even
I
know it
think
was out.
all of us, we played Octopath Traveler for the Game Pass Games Club, and I think we all kind of agreed that the gameplay was pretty good, but the story and characters left a little bit to be desired.
Just a bit. Just a bit.
And notably, we only played about 2 hours of the game for that. I personally have played a lot more of Octopath. I've gotten all the party members, and it has a lot of problems to me because you just... Everything except for the fact that none of your party members acknowledge any other characters was good. But that, to me, was like really, really big. Because the thing that kind of keeps me going in a lot of JRPGs is party interactions. Like, when I think back about playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, all the things that stick in my mind are the little character moments when you're just wandering about the world and your characters are having conversations. When I think of Mass Effect, it's your characters having conversations in elevators. So, yeah, I think it stands out as a thing that was really missing. Thankfully, I have heard from people that have played the demo that there are conversations between characters and they acknowledge each other, at least in battle. I don't know if they do it in stories because you can only play a limited amount of time in the demo, and I don't know how many of the stories are there. But if that actually follows through and there is proper character interaction, hey, maybe I'll pick up Octopath 2 and have a good time with it. Notably, I think Octopath 2 also has full voice acting compared to the first game, which only had it sometimes.
One thing I will point out is, because I think we had touched on this when we did our Game Pass episode on this, it still doesn't have enough color, at least for me. It still feels like the artist came in, they made this beautiful environment, and then someone came in with a little like dropper and just like a little syringe.
Like, look at Octopath Traveler versus Live Alive next to each other.
Yeah, Live Alive does.
Live Alive has so much more color and I think looks a lot better. Despite it,
too.
Yeah, not being the HD 2D mascot. Same thing happened with Triangle Strategy, where it's just kind of washed out the whole time. I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's definitely not super appealing to me.
No. I would be more okay with it if the tone of the game matched the visuals more, but they don't really match at all. So I'm just kind of left wondering why bother, like why do it in the first place.
Yeah, I'm also not a fan of just bloom everywhere. I don't think it tends to look good. A little bit of bloom is great. A lot of bloom is a real problem.
Well, a lot of bloom, then you start to look like those, like, oh, here's this cool
a lot of
Unreal
bloom
Engine 5 demo or something.
Exactly.
A lot of bloom makes me feel like I have a visual pollen allergy.
It makes me feel like I have cataracts or something. Like, it's not a good feeling. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about some other surprise games. We got Ghost Trick, Phantom
Yes.
Detective. Ghost Trick is a phenomenal game. It's getting ported
so
to
good.
Switch. This has been on phones before. It's relatively accessible, I believe, on other platforms, but this is the first like console port that it has. Absolutely recommended. I don't want to spoil any of it because it's a great game.
It's another case where I wish I could forget the main story so I could replay it for the first time again.
It's a
good.
point-and-click like detective puzzle game. Is the general vibe of Ghost Trick.
Some fun mechanics.
I wonder if because this was originally a mobile game, if they're gonna allow it to
Well, I
be
believe it
fully
was originally a
playable on the
DS
Switch.
game, actually.
It was originally a DS
Oh,
game, but I
okay.
first
was
played
on
it on mobile.
It released on mobile so that people could play it on modern things.
Also, really good music.
Yeah, great music. This also, I believe, looked like it was limited to 4x3. I don't remember if the phone port was like that, which is what I played it on. It might also be just a little thing to note. All right, let's keep on our detective train for a little while.
Yes.
Rain Code, Master Detective Archives Rain Code. This is the second time we've seen this game. This is by the Danganronpa creators.
That's what the art style
open-ish
reminded me,
detective mystery game where you're roaming around a cyberpunky city, and there are master detectives that all have unique powers that you use to solve the mysteries. Super anime. I'm kind of into it. I think is where I'm left
it looked
feeling
really
with
cool.
this.
I was gonna say, yeah, so much of the stuff here feels like it's, puzzle games, but with like weird fighting. Like, oh, this is if Ace Attorney got into brawls.
Yeah, yeah. We'll talk about Deca Police soon.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Raincode I think actually looks really cool. I'm curious about this because I haven't heard a lot of other people think this looks cool, but Danganronpa's creators that's a good reputation to me. Even if I didn't love the second and third games. The first one was really good.
I was gonna say I like Danganronpa. I like The World Ends With You. I feel like this is gonna be my jam.
Yeah, I hope this just runs well because this does look a little visually intense. So hopefully it runs well. I'm curious how these
exclusive period, so better.
Yeah, if it runs well, I'm definitely gonna end up picking this up because it looks right up my alley. And I love someone just so seriously saying, "I have post cognition."
Or God, someone had an ear on a weird place in their body, so they were able to hear people's heartbeats and discern if they were lying. That was someone's power.
It's got that classical Danganronpa just aesthetic of how the world works, which is just good. I like the weirdness, the off-kilter nature of it. All right, speaking of off-kilter, let's talk about Disney Illusion Island. This is the Disney platformer.
The new Mickey Mouse game. It's been a while since I've seen a Mickey Mouse game.
Platformer. It's not Epic Yarn or Epic Mickey, so I don't really care that much, but it looks cute. I think this will be great for families, and the co-op looks like it would be a good time if you have kids. I don't know that anything I saw there would convince me as an adult man that is 24 years old and has no one in local co-op range to play it with to pick this up.
Yeah.
But
this is the family game stand-in for the Game Awards later this year. This is going to show up on that nominees list for sure.
Yeah, also note the Nintendo Direct, they share a nice big image of what was shown in the Direct on their account, on their Twitter account, and Disney Illusion Island and the Game Boy Advance and Game Boy NSO announcements are the only thing that have like these big colored squares behind them so that you can read the text. Everything else is just kind of like a logo that is very legible. But it's Disney Illusion Island with like a big black text box behind it, which looks really bad. So,
teaser for the shoutouts, but I found it, and it was one of the Game Boy remasters that they're bringing back.
I am glad, and we'll talk about that very soon. Alex, we were on the thread of detective games. Professor Layton and the New World of Steam.
Yeah, finally.
I am sure this made you feel feelings.
Oh, it 100% did. It has been so long since we've had a Professor Layton game, let alone a good Professor Layton game, because I have mixed feelings about the Layton Detective Agency. I don't feel like it captured, I guess, the small town charm of the series bit, but there was nothing really fantastical or interesting story or plot wise going for it, unfortunately, which is one of the second reason that I play the Professor Layton games, besides the fun brain teasers and logic puzzles, is twists that come at you from literally nowhere, but also everywhere if you're paying attention in the story, and they're so fun.
You want that nicely teased twist that you can't ever place before it happens, but as soon as it does, you know exactly how it happened. You're like, oh, I understand.
The thing that gives puzzle games a replayability, because you want to go back and find all the hints to it.
Yep. I'm very curious about this. We didn't see any kind of gameplay or anything. My guess is this is probably one of the further out things from this direct.
Yeah, it's just, what was it? Pre-alpha, just like little teaser footage. We got one of the 3D screens with it zooming in on Layton's back and him turning around and tipping his hat to you.
Yep. All right. I'm going to toss out another franchise that I thought was dead along the lines of Professor Layton, which is Fantasy Life. We're getting a sequel to Fantasy Life.
I am so happy that I got to see Ryan's live reaction to that because it made me so happy.
This?
Yeah.
This was my direct. It was a lot for me.
You were like, oh my god, you freaked out.
I thought this game was dead. I thought it was dead. I thought they had killed this franchise because Fantasy Life is a full-on RPG. I don't want to make any weird statements about this. It is a full-on RPG with all sorts of different skill lines to level up and whatnot. You can do things like crafting, and every crafting thing has its own quest line, and every main attack job has its own quest line, and you go out and explore this little island. And
it's
all
like
sorts
Final
of things
Fantasy
on
XIV with its job system.
Exactly. And it works really well. It's single player, very good. It is locked to the 3DS and released very late into the 3DS's life cycle, so very few people played it. Except everyone who plays it agrees that it's very good and absolutely worth your time. So, yeah, if you can find a copy of Fantasy Life before it is off the store forever, I would heavily recommend trying it out. I don't know if it emulates well, not sure. But yeah, it's a great game. So, Fantasy Life the girl who steals time, intrigued me because the first line we see in this trailer is someone says, I'm going to send you back 1,000 years. That's the only dialogue. And I lost my mind at that. I was like, this is insane. What is the premise here? It's Animal Crossing. That's what it is. It's Animal Crossing mixed with Fantasy Life.
I hope... at first, before I saw the title, or if I wasn't paying attention and the title was the very first thing up, I immediately thought, is this like an Animal Crossing expansion? Because I saw the ground and the detail, and I'm just like, oh, that's exactly its style.
Yeah, 100% looks like they're aping Animal Crossing style hard. I hope this plays well because I'm a little concerned at the Animal Crossing bits because that's pretty far from what the initial game was. But they do in the trailer confirm that all the class switching stuff is still there and the leveling up still there. So I expect it to still be well received. I just hope that the Animal Crossing stuff is a fun addition and not really bad. Oh boy.
I am interested to see if redirecting a waterfall will drastically alter the course of history.
Look,
in this game.
Notably, there are crafting mini games that are different for every crafting type. So I hope those make their way back in. And when you're crafting all your furniture to fill your island, you are having to play so many mini games. Just want it to be mini game heaven. All right, let's move on to not mini game heaven and talk about Deco Police.
Hell yeah.
the other, now this is what I was talking about when we were talking about, if Ace Attorney got into a street fight.
This one is wild to me because I could not figure out what the style was here, but I think I'm in. I think I'm interested.
So insane.
I'm in.
Level 5 has been busy between this and Professor Layton.
Yeah.
It's
seriously.
And Level 5
I'm looking forward
has made some great stuff. So I'm super curious as to how this is going to fully play because it looks like a full-on JRPG. There's turn-based combat with weird gigantic things called Jewel Eaters, I guess. There's tons of very anime cutscenes, it looks like. You're in
also,
a digital world.
With a notable line of this being, I'll get rid of every last one of those pigs lining their own pockets.
Yeah, so are you fighting the police? Is that what's going on?
Super based.
And yeah, notably, Level 5 also does Fantasy Life. They're working on two things right now.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
Yeah,
And
I am
Death Police is going to the PS4 also.
hyper curious
Ah.
as to what this is going to feel like when it launches.
I'm excited.
I know that my wallet is going to be crying.
It's gonna be
Yeah.
a tough year.
Yeah, this is going to be a big year for games for sure.
Yeah.
I think this Nintendo Direct is another thing that, like, all the games that were here were at least intriguing. I don't think there was anything I was openly negative on, aside from the Tales of Symphonia remaster not really being a good remaster. But speaking of not being overly negative on it, Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe had some new stuff. We saw you can play as Magalore and level up with skill trees.
In a Kirby
choosing your
game.
attacks. You know, I've heard Return to Dreamland is very good. I've never played it, so I'm excited to hopefully give it a try. Any other thoughts on Kirby? No? All right, moving on. This one has mecha power.
it's
Brett.
a little.
It's a mech game, technically.
It's a little weird because whenever you say Kirby sucks, that means it's a really good game.
Yeah, for sure.
True.
All right, well, speaking of Kirby sucks, Game Boy and Game Boy Advance are now part of NSO and the expansion pack, respectively. This is cool news. I remember saying in the reaction thing, right when Wyatt, we were talking about this, we saw the Game Boy thing come up, and I was like, oh yeah, this is neat. And then Wyatt, I think, asked me if I ever thought we were ever going to get GameCube. And I was like, no way. The most I could see us getting is Game Boy Advance. And then they dropped Game Boy Advance like a sentence after.
Well, if you remember, you're like
precognition.
We had a little back and forth, and I was like, oh yeah, like Game Boy Advance would be the obvious next thing. You're like, but also this is Nintendo, so you never know what kind of weird, dumb decisions they're gonna make, and then it's right there.
The Game Boy Advance is directly on the screen, and yeah, I'm very happy about this. We saw Minish Cap and Link's Awakening, the original versions. I think this is great. I'm very excited to play some Game Boy games. I'm excited to see what they pull from. I would love to see them get the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games from the Game Boy Advance era, but I have no clue how complicated the licensing for that is.
Also, a shout out to the very nice feature that you can switch between the monochrome original Game Boy screen and the Game Boy Color and Game Boy Pocket colors as well, which is a very nice touch.
Yeah, very handy. All right, moving on. We saw the Splatoon 3 expansion pass. We see Inkopolis as part of it. I don't know if there's any gameplay involved with Inkopolis or it's just a new hub.
It was weird. It didn't really show.
But you can go to Mary and Callie's performances, so I guess that's gonna sell a ton of copies of this expansion pass for a lot of people.
Yep.
The second half of the expansion pass is Side Order, which I saw this was like, are we seeing a Nier trailer right now?
Yeah, that's the same thing. It looks exactly like Nier Automata with all the buildings in white and everything. I don't know. You know what?
It looks like it reminded me of
Siege now. It could be anything. I could see Nier showing up in Splatoon, and I honestly wouldn't even bat an eye at this point.
Yeah.
I would just be like,
my best guess is this is going to be like Unfinished Swan, but for Splatoon, you're painting the environment. But that's like a gameplay mechanic and not a story, so I'm curious what this is going to be. It's called Side Order, and Order and Chaos was the last Splatfest before Splatoon 3, and that's why 3 is all about Chaos, because Chaos won. So I think the assumption here is that this is like the Order half of what it would have looked like if Order had won. Which is a cool idea. I'm curious to see what this looks like. All right. We're left with the big one. We got Tears of the Kingdom gameplay footage.
Oh, boy.
Spliced together. Very short, like always. Man, I want to play this game, but I'm so curious what the twist is. I want to know what they're doing that's different from the first one.
Well, we know a little bit of what they're doing.
We know a little bit. We know this is now Besiege.
Well, what does that mean?
I was gonna say they Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts.
Absolutely, they nuts and bolts.
You can now out of many gears and wooden pieces make a giant plank in the shape of a penis and fly across the Hyrule, just like you can in Nuts and Bolts.
I'm sure many people will do that on day one.
Ganondorf.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think this looks fun. Opening up the physics sandbox to include vehicles feels pretty natural. I hope it doesn't entirely destroy progression in the world, because I think Breath of the Wild has a really nice sense of getting stronger as you're going through and collecting things. The vehicles feel like they might lead to you just cheesing the whole game.
I feel like it really depends on when they introduce it.
Yeah.
Right? Because Breath of the Wild has always been like, we're gonna give you all the tools at the beginning. Go nuts was Breath of the Wild's whole thing because of the amount of freedom that it offered you. I don't know if that same tactic should be used here with the vehicles.
Give me all the
I think you
tools
really
that I
gotta
had in
work
Breath
with
of
it.
the Wild at the beginning, or maybe slightly changed versions of them.
I was gonna say, I assume you get your glider, your basic magnetism and stasis, things like that, along
'Cause it
with your
depends.
little
It looked
dehydrated
like
arm power.
your
Bombs are
Sheikah
still
powers are
there,
now part
it
of your
looks
Sheikah
like.
arm instead of your
Yeah.
tablet.
Which,
So-
fun fact, was Link having a Sheikah robotic arm was originally a concept meant for Breath of the Wild that was dropped during pre-production. So it's interesting that they're bringing that idea back. I
Yeah,
love
love
that.
it. Trick arms are
When-
always in style.
Oh yeah.
They gave him
Um,
the Sekiro treatment. Oh no!
It's true.
We did hear a voice. Everyone's
We
saying
heard
it's
Matt
Ganon's.
Mercer.
We heard Matt Mercer.
What? He's
I can't-
Ganon. Maybe.
Here's the thing: is a lot of people are saying it's Ganon. We don't know what he's actually fighting. We don't know what that thing is.
I
So
feel like maybe
Matt Mercer is sexy Ganondorf, confirmed now.
'Cause-
That's
I wish Sexy Ganondorf makes a comeback, but I think like somehow Zelda gave like the power of Ganondorf's corpse to Link's arm. That's how it got powered up.
or maybe it's like
shriveled?
another ancient evil that Ganondorf was trying to keep at bay or something. There's like a second layer.
Maybe.
Who knows?
I
Maybe
would
it is just
be
Ganondorf. It's a Zelda
insanely-
game. They're usually not that complicated.
I know. I wish, but what if this makes a callback to the timeline with Skyward Sword and how like Demise or Chaos was doing something?
there's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of connections between
Okay.
Breath of the Wild and Skyward Sword. There's a very interesting theory. I think I've talked about this before. There's a very interesting theory going around that in Skyward Sword they had talked about this great war that had happened, which then because of that, the gods had basically sent the land of Skyloft up into the air to protect all the humans, right? And then in Breath of the Wild, we're seeing a lot of similar imagery. A lot of the
We're seeing the land
goddess,
being sent to the sky.
right, in Tears of the Kingdom. But there's certain sections of Breath of the Wild that is like the same as Skyward Sword. So like there's like one of the goddess temples in Skyward Sword is like it's there in Breath of the Wild as well. It's like the layout is exactly the same. So it's the connections are very interesting, is what I'm saying.
You know what? I'm into this. I'm into this idea.
Yeah,
Maybe that's why
we
Skyward
talked
And so
Sword is
the,
the
about
the,
the wild
idea,
remaster.
the idea is that Breath of the Wild is kind of introduced a kind of cyclical nature to the Zelda timeline, where now we're wrapping back around to the beginning of Skyward Sword again. It's on this
Oh.
giant like timeline loop.
What if Fee shows up?
That would be
what if that's
insane.
the twist? Fee is in
Oh
the
my
game.
god!
It would be super cool. That's all I'm saying.
Also, I've
That would be
been-
mind blowing.
I've been a stan for the Tears of the Kingdom Twilight Princess tie-in since we got the first little teasers a while ago, because the things are looking more and more like the neon blue green Twilight Princess zigzaggy digital vein aesthetic. Towards the end of the trailer,
Yeah.
we got the soundtrack turned a little bit
Mhm.
into those like reverse instruments and farty trumpet noises that Twilight Princess is famous for using. So they could be trying to like loop a bunch of things in with this, and that would make me actually interested as someone who was not really before
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild.
And on the note of score too, we haven't heard a lot of Breath of the Wild's like iconic piano soundtrack. It's been the music that we've gotten is very like grandiose and orchestral. So I wonder if there's
God.
going to be a change in sound.
Thank God.
I kind of hope so, because Breath of the Wild had that one story trailer that came out before release that is one of the best trailers that has ever been made. It's so good, and then they didn't use the track in the game. I was so upset because that music track was so good.
I
And they
think
just
I
never
think
used it.
sometimes the piano works really well. Like I love the song where Link is remembering a memory and there's this little like piano riff that goes off
Yeah.
that's really great, or like when you're on your horse and stuff. But other times you're like fighting a giant robot octopus thing and it's just this guy jamming out on his piano. It's like, can we have something a little bit more
You just have a little
exciting?
different, Yeah. I'm very curious about this because I do think we saw a lot of interesting snippets here. I still want to know, what does basic combat look like in Tears of the Kingdom?
Yes.
Is there a twist? Is it the same as Breath of the Wild? Because I think both are probably fine, but I would like there to be some difference, even if it's
I
very
think-
minor.
I think what we were talking about during the stream after they showed this, it's like I don't really want a massive shakeup in the combat. I think the base is there. They just need to tweak some things, maybe like add one or two things. But I'm not asking for a whole lot of changes. I just want something a little bit tighter, a little
Some
bit.
adjustments more than
Yeah.
changes.
Yeah.
Maybe increase the durability a little bit in the master mode equivalent, please.
Well, I want to talk about that in our Tears of the Kingdom wish list.
Yeah,
video,
we'll probably do that in, I would guess, like first week of April. Do it month before Tears of the Kingdom's out. Have a nice little 1 month before release celebration. Yeah. So, any other thoughts on Tears of the Kingdom before we move on to Steam Next Fest?
We saw some new enemy types, which is cool. I also notably saw an enemy that blows a horn that calls in more enemies, which was an enemy type in Skyward Sword, strengthening the connection between this and Skyward Sword.
You know what? The other one thing I want, one more wishlisty thing that I really hope that this trailer did not show me. Have more characters that do things in the story that aren't Link.
Yeah.
Yes.
Please have Zelda or Impa or somebody. Impa's granddaughter. Someone needs to do something.
Have Robbie and Purah do more stuff. The like two Sheikah scientist people. Have them do stuff. They're fun.
Have a character that is in a cutscene in the game that is not 100 years ago. That's what I would really like.
Yeah.
And that existed in a few places in Breath of the Wild, but it was very separated and entirely missable if you didn't do the Divine Beasts. So, yeah, I hope there's a little bit more cinematic flair given to people that aren't Link. As much as I love Link, I want to see Zelda do something cool that isn't 100 years ago. That's really the...
And also, that isn't being a damsel in distress.
Well, I mean, she single-handedly fought Ganondorf for like 100 years. That's pretty impressive. I don't know that I would call her a damsel in distress.
But the whole thing was, the whole concept of the game was us saving her again.
Well, you're not saving. You're saving the kingdom. Zelda's survival is ambiguous the entire.
I feel like we're definitely saving her again because in the last trailer you see Link reaching her as she's falling.
I'm gonna side with Alex on this one because King Rome was literally like, "Go save Zelda." And Impa was also like, "Go save Zelda," like several times.
Give her some credit. That woman fought off a god for 100 years.
I want to give her credit. I want to play as her.
An all-powerful god, while Link was fishing using bombs.
we call that the Kentucky Derby.
Link was dicking around, shield surfing all day when he should have been saving Zelda, who was single-handedly fighting a giant god.
I'm leveling up. Oh my god. Well,
look, what's another year? You've already had 100 of them. All right, moving on. We'll talk about Tears of the Kingdom more before release, and I'm sure more after release. Let's talk about Steam Next Fest and things we've been playing this week. I have unfortunately not had much of a chance to dive into Steam Next Fest because prep for moving takes a lot of time. So how about you three? Any fun games that you've played?
I'll start with one because I also haven't had a lot of time, so I'm going to get what little I have to say about Planet of Lana out of the way first.
Ooh.
Which, fun fact, is actually on my Fantasy Critic. It's one of my Fantasy Critic games. I'm not saying I fully regret it yet, but it's a wait and see because I'm not here to say that the game is bad. It is a 2D puzzle platformer. You play as this little kid named Lana, and she has this adorable little cat demon thing, and you have to work together in order to do puzzles. So like you have to move things around, you have to like step on different pressure plates and order the little cute little dog thing around. It was fine. The presentation was great. The game looks gorgeous. The music is great. It's super interesting. The puzzles are fine. I would not call them like incredible in any way. I think one of my favorite feelings in a game like this is when they introduce a mechanic for a puzzle or combat or something, and your mind runs wild with what the devs could potentially do with it, and you get really excited. It's one of my favorite feelings, especially in like the early phases of a game, and I haven't had that yet. They've been introducing things, and it's all fine, and it all works well, but it's nothing that really like gets my imagination going. It's not super exciting yet, but it looks great. It sounds great. I think it'll be a perfectly good, fine puzzle game.
If it hits that, that'll be fun.
There you go.
And please do well, because it's in my fantasy critic now, and I needed to do well.
Now you're emotionally attached.
Yes.
Financially attached.
All right.
I played 6 demos for the Steam Next Fest, and I might have even done more without writing them down, but I'm just gonna stick to the 6 that I have here, and I'll do like 1 or 2, and then someone else can say something, so it's not just be blabbing for like half an hour.
Please blab.
I will
because
blab.
I have not had the chance to play any games either.
Well, I'm abducting your time and I'm making it my own.
Please do. It's all yours.
So this one I put on my list of things to talk about that we haven't heard from in a while, a couple weeks ago. But it doesn't matter anymore because Boundary has a demo, and you know what? It's incredible. And when your demo has more content than Halo Infinite does without Forge, you are giving
I love that
the
being the metric.
The AAA shooter space a run for their money right now. Boundary is the astronaut zero gravity space FPS game that we've been seeing on and off for like many years. I feel like
we've seen it a
at the start of
lot.
college, I feel like we've been seeing stuff from it. But yeah,
There's actually been a lot of games kind of attempting this, but Boundary I think looks like the most realized version of it.
For sure, yeah. It's I don't remember what the dev is, but I'm pretty sure it's a Chinese dev. And I gotta say they totally nailed it. I was expecting
Studio Surgical Scalpels is the dev name.
All right.
I love that. That's great.
You know, by watching any footage of it that's from like a pre-release package or like reading stuff about it, you know, they describe it as like a tactical shooter, and just don't ever think it. It's Call of Duty in space. You can quickscope people with your Mosin Nagant that is spray painted white to go into space. And it smashes through their astronaut helmet and kills them in one shot, and they go spinning off into the abyss and explode. It's incredible. You would think that controlling something like this would be horrible because you have like full like range of movement in the sphere around you, and you're just sitting in your astronaut lounge chair rotating with Q and E while you're using WAS to move every other direction in your mouse and stuff. You also have a grappling hook to pull yourself to places that are in range. And I don't know. I don't have really any complaints other than that the servers kind of sucked, but it's just a demo, so I hope that they get better. And that they just shouldn't have taken the one spot spawn idea, because it's really easy to spawn camp in maps with no walls between things because they're all floating in space.
Oh dear.
Yeah, if anyone has the demo ends on the 13th, so nobody listening to this after we post it will have time to play it. But to any of you guys here, if you haven't tried it yet, I would really encourage it.
Yeah.
One day.
Gonna have to try it.
I also completely other kind of game tried Unmerk, which is like a 3D block puzzle game. I don't really know how to explain this one, so probably look it up for imagery of what I'm talking about. But it's like you get a silhouette of a thing, and you can rotate it, and it'll snap to like any face where like a cube's face would be directly looking at the camera. So you could just like turn it in any direction as if it was in a block. And then you have shapes on the side that you have to fit into the silhouette, and it'll fill out the color of that thing. And there was a bunch of different puzzles you could put together. There was one that was like a speedboat. There was a banana. There was a parrot. And some of them are really easy because it's just like, oh, the pieces they give me a bunch of colors together, so I can fill out this whole big chunk. And then sometimes, you know, you get the banana and it's just all yellow for everything except for the stem, and it's really it's a very fun brain teaser, and it was also very relaxing because the background music is just like an ambient drone. And I played it really late at night, and I feel like I almost got put to sleep by it, but it was very good.
You said it was called Unmerked again?
Unmerk. Yes. UNMURK. Like Merc is in murky.
Merc. Okay.
one word. Um,
Gotcha.
Then we got Coven, which is
this looks
your
fun.
boomer shooter. This is the only one of the low poly old school boomer shooters that I have ever seen do the dynamic soundtrack thing. Where there's just like a very it's called Coven, so you play as a witch or someone that was wrongly
Understandable.
accused of being a witch.
Ooh, fun.
In like the crucible times. So then of course you come back to life as one and start killing everybody that wronged you.
Oh, hell yeah.
You can walk up to people's bodies if they didn't jib already and eat the jib off of them to regain health and just turn people into intestines and stuff. It's great. But yeah, as you're running around the level, you just get some nice normal level music, and then when action starts happening, the shredding guitar just comes in, and the blast beats from the metal drums come in, and just that transition always works so well. It was really, really awesome. There was also an ability you could get, the Necronomicon. When you held it out, it would reveal like platforms to you that you couldn't see before you were holding it out. So that was a really cool little twist on just platforming in a boomer shooter. But yeah, I don't know when you can dual wield axe pistols, and the special ability is swinging them like this to chop people apart as you're running at them. There's not a lot of wrong that you could do with that, so that was pretty kick-ass. There was only 2 levels.
I'm so happy that boomer shooters are just in a full-on like
trend
resurgence.
It's great.
Yeah. One of
it does make me wonder if it's ever going to trickle into the AAA space. I'm going to assume probably not, but
it's some things like to stay indie because
it feels like this is one the budget gets too high for a boomer shooter, and I think you've missed the point.
Yeah, it's no longer boomer, and it's just shooter, which is definitely not the point.
It's not a boomer shooter; it's BS.
Yes. Then I also played Return, which is has a what I will call a pixelated Apple commercial aesthetic, because everything in the foreground is silhouetted in black, and then everything in the background has like a nice environmental tone to it, which looks really cool. But it's a little too hardcore for my taste, because it tries to kind of have the just like run by everything and conserve all your ammo, and you do like no damage, like a Resident Evil sort of thing, but on a 2D platforming point of view, and didn't really work that well in my opinion. Because there was a lot of things where it was like, wow, I really should be able to kill this in at least like a magazine, because I do not have the ammo for this, and there's like 5 of these guys on one screen, and they're really hard to get by. But I don't know, it's a demo, so they could probably fix it up. It felt like an artist game, where the guy who made it was just probably an artist, and you know what, that's okay, because it was very pretty. And now we're getting into Brett game territory for the last 2. One of them is Rusted Moss, that I've been following on Twitter for a while. It's like, it's not quite like a Metroidvania. I really just want to call this a cave story, like, because it gave me a lot of cave story vibes. Kind of like puzzle platformery, pretty difficult. But the sandbox there is really, really cool, which is one of the things I really liked about cave stories, that all the weapons do different things. You don't have different weapon choices yet, but you have it's like a very stretchy, bouncing grappling hook. And I've said many times that I do not like when grappling hooks just like pull you to a place in a static line. This game like demands that you like learn how to bounce, because there's a lot of times where if you don't like grapple the top of something and jump and then let go right as you're on the upswing, you will just die over and over. But very cool, really nice pixel art. And it's uses like fairy mythology and nomenclature in like a post-apocalyptic science setting, which is very cool and very weird. I don't think I've seen that before. But super fun.
This looks really fun.
Yeah, it was very cool.
What was the name
again? Rusted Moss.
Good pixel art too. It has that constantly shifting, like blowing in the breeze feel to it.
Yes, it's super. The artist is really good. They have Twitter
Oh,
account
yeah,
that I
that's a
think is
great
just
look.
Rusted Moss. Really recommend following them if you can't try the game. And then the last one, the most Brett game of all that I saw that I've been following for a really long time, Radio the Universe, has incredible art and soundtrack. Because it's just exactly that kind of grimy pixel art that I love.
Mm.
I don't even know what's going on with the story here, but it's a Hyper Light Drifter esque, like top down ish Zelda the action like, which I just won't get tired of as long as they're done well. Um, Very interesting XP and combat mechanics where it's like I think there's like a like classic board game that does this where enemies have like a number over their head, and you only get experience for killing them if you do the exact number of damage to them. If you do any points of
Huh.
damage over with like your last shot or something, you won't get any XP for it.
Hmm.
Which is interesting. It leaves you to use weapons in a different way and make some different decisions than you normally would. Um, but it's I don't know. It's really cool. It's got wacky dream narrative. It's hard until you find out the thing to solve the thing you were having trouble with, and then it's easy. So it's looking like it's going to be awesome. I don't know when it's even going to come out. Maybe this year, but out of all the things that I've talked about, probably Radio the Universe is the one I'm most
This
excited for.
this is the
That's pretty
most
interesting.
sun-kissed, grimy pixel art I've ever seen.
Yes, sun-kissed is a good word for it.
Sometimes you
Very
need some
pretty.
good grime.
Yeah, good slime.
All right.
And that's
Goo!
all I have.
Exclamation point.
That's a good list of games, Brett. The only
Yes.
stuff I've played a little bit of is this isn't Steam Next Fest, but I think Brett, you'll appreciate this. Is I saw a little game after we played some Gang Beasts for the Game Pass Games Club.
Oh boy.
Video up on the channel soon.
You when
It
it
was
comes out, you should
unhinged.
definitely watch it. It was beyond
Truly
fun
unhinged,
to
a
play.
very fun time. Afterwards, I was browsing the Steam store and looking at some new indie releases and saw a game called Waves of Steel. That the
Yeah,
kick,
baby.
the line for this was, "If you like warships but wish they could kickflip, Waves of Steel is
Yes.
for you." And I immediately bought the game and I've played a bit of it, and it's just as insane as it sounds, and it's
Wonderful.
very fun. It's super jank, but it is
As
the
it should
good
be.
kind of jank. It's just one of those games that it's kind of hard to believe that this is a real thing, and I'm so happy that it is.
It's like a fun
You know,
fever
looking
dream.
at this Steam page, you know what this feels like? This feels like a joke game that Devolver
Went
Digital
all
would
the
put
way.
out. That Devolver Digital would put out as like promotion for a different game, just to like mess with people.
Yep.
Huh.
But usually, whenever Devolver does that, they actually come out with like a cool thing that like works way better than you expect it to.
Yeah, it's crazy. It was a bonkers time. I've only played a little bit of it, but I'm very happy with it and excited to
Hell
play
yeah.
more because it's completely unhinged. It's just the kind of thing that I find hard to believe is real. That's been pretty much it for me this last week, aside from
I did
Metroid Prime Remaster, which I already talked about.
I did play a couple of other things. I didn't get to sink as much time in them as I would want to. One of them was the System Shock demo. I didn't get
Yes.
I didn't get too much
yeah.
into it.
Oh.
I didn't get too much into it, but from what I played, it was real neat, and I
very
liked
Good
it
descriptor.
quite a bit. It does feel a lot like it felt a lot like BioShock to me, which God can't imagine why. But it's weird with immersive sims because I loved BioShock. I love BioShock Infinite. I played most of 2. I can't think of another immersive sim that has like engrossed me in the same way. And maybe it's just because there hasn't been another one with a story that's been quite as interesting to me. But like I played Prey for a while and I just kind of bounced off of that after a while. I don't know. So maybe this will be the one to hold my interest for long enough. But it was a
All
cool
right.
art style. Like it was. I looked at all the screenshots and I was like, oh, is this like a pixel art type thing? I wasn't really sure what I was looking at. I was like, oh, it's full 3D. Oh, okay. It was
Going for that
super
look.
interesting. Yeah, yeah. And
All
then
right.
I also played very left of the dial of what I normally play, Dark and Darker. Now, I only played this because a friend of mine started playing it, and he loves these type of games, so he convinced me to download it and check it out. It is one of those like extraction shooter types, like a Tarkov or something similar, except it's like medieval fantasy. And when I say medieval fantasy, I mean the most generic medieval fantasy setting you could possibly imagine, which I'm not even saying is a bad thing because there's something weirdly comforting about like a just bog standard European medieval fantasy
Because
setting.
it's
I don't know.
uncommon now. It's
Yeah.
bog standard, but we don't get a lot of games.
It's like it's like curling up with in front of your fireplace in the middle of winter with like a
Your
nice
little
book
Dragon
that you
Age
read.
safety blanket.
Yeah, you're reading a nice book that you read every now and then, you know, like every other year, just to relive it again. If it has that kind of cozy feeling to it. The gameplay is not
with your
a
favorite
cozy feeling.
Claymore.
The gameplay is not a cozy feeling. It is a pain in the ass, to be honest with you. It's one of those like PvEVP type situations where you're running into a lot of computer controlled like AI skeletons and
You got to be
zombies and
wary
such.
of other players coming to trounce your day
Yes.
and steal your loot.
Yeah, there's a lot of like looting chests and putting on new armor and stuff, and there's a lot of like fumbling around with inventory because you can have I played the fighter class, right? So you can have your sword and your shield out or your torch, and because this game gets very dark sometimes, it gets very annoying.
You can't have sword and torch or shield and torch.
I'm gonna be honest. So when I played this with my friend Jess, I had kind of a fun time. We got our butts kicked, but I had a fun time. Because it's very hardcore in the sense that like there is friendly fire and it is like 100% damage.
Oh
so you have to be
no.
Yeah, you have to
really
be real
really
careful.
careful. The movement's very slow, the combat's kind of very clunky. Intentionally though, it's supposed to feel very weighty. But if you're playing on your own, it is a miserable experience because they start you off in a little room, you know, where you can pick up a couple of things maybe, but then as soon as you head out that room, like I played a match just before logging on to this to our Discord, and man, I was surrounded by like 10 enemies immediately. And because of the class system, they have it so that it takes a while to like open doors. And so because I was the fighter, I'm the dumb fighter. It takes me a while. I fumble with locks to open doors, whereas if you're like the rogue class, you know, you could open doors pretty quickly. But it makes it very difficult to run from encounters that you're clearly not supposed to fight if it takes you 2 years to open a door and they're like fighting and they're like attacking you, right?
Yeah, if you had another player that could like distract them, I could see that not being as big of a problem. But
yeah, it was a painful experience solo. And a lot of the combat just comes down to swing once or twice with your sword, back up, let them attack, go back in, swing once or twice, back up, go back in. Like I know that's a lot of different. I know that that's kind of the basis of like Souls combat, but it doesn't dress that up in anything fancy. It's literally just swipe, back up, go back in, swipe, and it got very old very quickly. Gorgeous 2D art. A lot of like the character cards and just like the banner for the game and like my Steam library looks great, but yeah, I don't know. Not for me. I think it'll definitely have a hardcore, like a smaller hardcore following, but I'm definitely not going to be one of those people, unfortunately.
Interesting. I have seen some people playing this game, and wildly, Wyatt, this has reminded me of Deep Down. The art style wise, it reminds me of Deep Down a little bit.
I will say, this seems to be a relatively small development team. The environment art was actually quite nice for a small indie team. The character models less so, but character models are, you know, making those look natural in a realistic art style with a small budget is a difficult thing to do. But the environments are actually quite nice. I will give them full credit for that. But
all right. Well, I think that's everything for today. We've covered a lot. We talked about a lot of games. We'll be back next week to talk about more games. That's the gist of it. Yeah, that's how the show works. Next few weeks will be a little bit rocky as I am doing a long distance move. should be uninterrupted. I will make every effort to make it uninterrupted. There is a possibility of a day or two slipping depending on when, but there should be something every week. They just might be not as timely as normal or at the same time that clockwork, but it should be happening every week still. So no real disruption, but there will be funky things and likely no overlay for a little while because I have to ship this computer to California. So overlay will be gone for a bit, but we should be fine aside from that. All right, well, let's go to shoutouts. We got games to shout out.
It is shout out time.
Big shout out time.
What
do you want to talk about? Mine. Who wants to go first?
I'll start with mine. It's not a shout out to a game, but shout out to a person. That person being George Miller, who, if you know who he is the director of the Mad Max movies and also similar movies like that Talking Pig movie that I can never remember the name of. But he's directed a bunch of stuff.
Babe?
Yes, thank you. And if you didn't know, his wife, Margaret Sixel, is a film editor, and she did a lot of editing for his other non-Mad Max related projects. But when he was making Fury Road, he wanted her to edit it, and she was like, "I've never edited an action movie before. Why would you want me to do that?" And he was like, "Well, because if I got someone else to do it that is familiar with these types of things, it would be edited and it would look like any other action movie. And I want specifically you to do it because you have no experience, and I want it to look very unique." And the best part of that story is she later won an Oscar for her work editing that movie because that movie's awesome. And if you haven't seen it, shame on you.
Shame on you.
Also, very interesting that the guy who did Babe did Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah, that man has had an interesting career.
Sometimes you got to do some weird stuff. All right. I'll do my next shout out, and I'm gonna keep it in the realm of film because I got to see Puss in Boots: Last Wish recently.
Ooh.
I did not expect the Puss in Boots movie to be my favorite thing I've seen in a theater in a long time. It's really good.
I saw it last night and can confirm it was fantastic. There was one joke where I was like out of breath because I was laughing so much.
It's just legitimately a great time.
I'm gonna try to see it Saturday night or sometime Sunday before the podcast.
I was
beautifully animated as well.
Yeah, I was also shocked by how seriously they took the characters in terms of giving them really, really depressing backstories. Like some of them are like, "Oh God, can we get away with that in a kids movie? What is this?"
Can we? I guess so.
I don't know. I'm not really a math guy. I never counted.
Yeah, it's a great time. Thoroughly surprised by it. Very happy that I went to see it and what I thought was taking a risk. Nope, it's just really good.
Yep.
All right, who wants to go next?
Are we saving mine for the last one?
Is yours also a movie?
No, mine is not.
Because mine is.
Okay.
We'll keep it on the segue. I watched. I don't think I've shouted out Skinamarink yet. But I
not
watched
podcast,
it recently.
No.
It's one of those things where it comes out and the internet talks about it, and when it comes out and the internet talks about it, and that's all I hear about it, I get a little, I don't know if it's gonna be good or not.
I don't know. I don't trust it.
But I saw it because it's on Shudder and Shudder only now. And this is the one movie where I can firmly plant my feet on the ground and say that if you are not watching this past midnight in the basement with headphones on, you are doing it wrong. Because I've never had an experience like someone just took a night terror from when I was a child and put it on the screen. Until watching that movie, I never want to watch it ever again. It was really good and really scary. And there was a part where I was like, I felt like a 4-year-old like covering my face, and like I felt like I was about to vomit after finishing it because I was so
my God.
It was really scary, and it preyed on a lot of very specific Brett-isms. If you like normal horror movies with things like characters, that's not Skinamarink. You maybe see a person like once. It's filmed super weird. I would highly recommend it, and then never watch it again. Skinamarink. It's like the nursery rhyme. I don't remember what it is. I just know that it's also called Skinamarink. But
all right. Well, We've had a good time talking about some games and some movies. Alex, close us out by closing the mystery of what you've been hiding this whole time.
The fever dream that I thought I was having is in fact a real game that was masqueraded and hidden from me from my visual library because I saw it in a Game Changer episode, which is one of the things that College Humor does on their Dropout subscription service, where it was in like a what is wrong with this picture game, because it was a title on the wrong type of system game cartridge. So that's why it was photoshopped onto a PlayStation game, but the game was Alone in the Dark.
Oh yeah,
maximum suspense.
for the GBA Alone in the Dark.
Yeah.
That is not the proper way to play Alone in the Dark.
The new.
I don't know why they
Isn't
picked
Alone
that
in the Dark
one.
getting a remake soon? Wasn't that announced?
It is. I'm sure that's probably why they actually did, but I don't know why you would play the GBA version. The other versions are also
get the
really
maximum comparison of the GBA version to the real remake version that looks much nicer.
So, but I mean, on the same concept of horror as Brett.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, that's the end of the show. We've talked about a bunch of games. It's time for us to rest in our coffins until next week, when we rise once again to talk about more video games.
Coffins.
Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the podcast platform of your choice, YouTube and Twitch, at Double M Radio. Pretty much everything. Go find it. Go hunt it down. It's not that hard.
My gamer coffin is the ET ditch.